few kilometers from the town of Alexandroupolis and in the outskirts of the village of Makri, archaeologists of the Museum of Komotini and their colleagues from the Department of Archaeology of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki brought to light in the middle of the 80s the remains of what could be considered one of the best excavated and well-documented prehistoric settlements found so far in Thrace. The site itself holds the remains, well kept in the deep archaeological layers of the mound of Makri, of the first farming and pastoral community that arrived and settled permanently in this area of Thrace during the beginning of the so-called Neolithic period, sometime around 6000 BC, taking the place of the last hunter-gatherer groups, which lived in the area for hundreds of thousands of years. The founding of the Neolithic village of Makri in the specific location was not accidental. Among the vast olive groves of the region, a few meters above the present seacoast and next to the so-called Cyclops Cave. From there, the first inhabitants had a commanding view of the whole of the northern Aegean. The Straits of Dardanelles to the east, the islands of Evros and Samothrace in the south, and Thassos Island in the west. The area around the site at that time, as the paleo-environmental studies have shown, was particularly favorable for human settling, dominated by thick oak forests which were providing wood for construction or fuel purposes, cooking and heating, well-watered and fertile fields for cereal cultivation, and low hills in the nearby Mount Ismaros for pastoral activities and hunting. Moreover, in front of the prehistoric site, an attractive coastal plain or lagoon was extending, suitable for collecting mollusks for food and fishing. In this very location, the first inhabitants of Neolithic Makri decided to build their houses around 6200 BC and to live permanently and uninterrupted until the settlement was finally abandoned 1000 years later. All the material evidence which documents this long settlement life is buried in the 4 meters thick archaeological layers of the prehistoric mound, presenting an impressive palimpsest of prehistoric life. These are human traces, which the archaeologists try to reveal with the utmost care, scratching and brushing the soil carefully, inch by inch, and recording in detail the exact position where each object was found. Pieces of broken vases and stone tools, discarded food remains, and rubbish of any kind, and with only one thought in mind, to study in detail the daily life of the ordinary people who lived in the Neolithic village of Makri 8,000 years before the present, and if they can, to understand their desires, their agonies, or to describe the events which took place during the long history of the site. To uncover the interior of a house, the succession of house floors made of clay or plaster, the content of storage or rubbish pits, the thrown-away ceramic pieces, a small stone tool, a bead from a necklace made of bone, a broken figurine, or an exotic stone which one had brought to the village from faraway places. And at the same time, to describe the burial of a young woman who died in the village and was buried according to the Neolithic burial practice, in a pit which was opened up under the house floor, with a large stone placed on her chest and the personal objects or gifts put next to her, together with the burial goods, a stone bead and a few animal bones, which were destined to accompany her in the eternal journey she had started. The systematic excavations in the mound of Makri have brought to light many and different categories of archaeological finds, of different sizes, materials, and use. Rectangular houses made of wooden posts, branches, and sun-dried bricks. with open areas, courtyards between them. Successive habitation floors from the interior of houses, carefully made and excellently preserved till today. Other types of small structures made of stone, but usually of clay, fireplaces, storage pits, and rubbish areas, where archaeologists could find and study the remains of people's everyday activities. The making of ceramics, stone tools or figurines. Specialists during the excavation were responsible for studying specific categories of archaeological finds, which describe many of the everyday activities of the inhabitants of the Neolithic village, and counting and recognizing the bones of domesticated animals kept in the site or hunted wild game. At the same time, in the dig house, another group of archaeologists were dealing with the thousands of finds from the everyday excavation, recording and drawing pieces of ceramics, and then attempting to restore whole vases. This way, one could have a fair picture of the everyday use of the different shapes of ceramics made and used by the Neolithic community of Makri. Experimental archaeology was also employed to help the archaeologists study the prehistoric technology of the Neolithic inhabitants of Makri. Through the experimental reconstruction of the whole process of the ceramic production of the site, from the first step of collecting the clay, the building of the body of the pot, the treatment of its surface, its decoration, and finally, the making of the ceramic kiln and the firing of the vases. The systematic investigation of the prehistoric settlement of Makri and the study of its material offers for the first time to the visitors of the site and to the archaeologists who study this important Neolithic site a unique chance to have a fair picture of the everyday life of a farming community which lived in this part of Greek Thrace 8,000 years ago.